morning, everyone. Oh, wow. It's a bit of an honour, this, to be honest. So, anyway, I'm Kim McGuinness. I am your Labour Police and Crime Commissioner for Northumbria, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you and to be with you here today at Sage Gateshead as we, the Labour Party, prepare to set out the next steps on our path to government. Following the events of the last few weeks, it is clear that this country is calling out for a change. It is outrageous that as war rages in Europe and the cost of living crisis bites at home, this Conservative government has simply imploded. 12 years of austerity, arrogant rule, incompetence have left the Conservative Party drowning in its own mire of sleaze and corruption. The Tories are simply unfit to govern. This last week has been a sorry spectacle, and we must not forget that the rabble putting themselves forward to be the new leader, many of them ex-cabinet ministers, propped up Johnson again and again. Sunak, Truss, Shapps and all of the others, the Tory leadership race has nothing to offer this great country. It is a race to the bottom. Even as it became clear to everyone else that the writing was on the wall, Boris Johnson still clung on in a Trump-like desperation, holding himself up in Downing Street while his government ground to a halt. Under the Tories, our police forces, our councils, our public services have seen some of the worst cuts anywhere in the country. Our wages are lower, our unemployment rate is higher, and over 37% of the kids in this region are growing up in poverty. And as my union Unison says, those on the front line are now on the breadline, and that is something that we cannot tolerate. Here in Gateshead, we've always known that the Tories can't be trusted. That's why there hasn't been a single Tory councillor here in over 30 years, and the same is true over in Newcastle. Here in Gateshead, you just have to look round you to see what Labour in power can do. Here, the Sage Gateshead, Baltic next door, the beautiful Millennium Bridge, which myself and Nick walked Keir across just this morning, are all legacies of the last Labour government and a strong Labour council. And the next phase, an international convention centre just down there, is down to that Labour-led council and a bold vision for economic regeneration. The fact is, regardless of who they choose, the Tories have lost the plot. The cost of living crisis and rise in inflation will cause further pain for families as energy bills go up this autumn. People will suffer at the hands of their negligence, and God forbid people will die. We need a general election. This region needs a general election, and we need a Labour government now. Which brings me on to Keir Starmer. A leader in direct contrast with everything that we are seeing from this government. A leader with honesty and integrity. A leader who has built around him a cabinet with the skill and the vision to govern. A leader who gets it. I first met Keir when he came to speak at a dinner hosted by Nick Brown at the Biscuit Factory in 2018. And even back then, when there wasn't a vacancy, it was clear to me that he could lead this party united and bring us back to government. Since Keir's been leader, I think it's fair to say that he hasn't had an easy ride. But he's got on with the job, and May's local election results and the recent outstanding result in Wakefield show that it is working. It's not show, it's not scandal, it's just good, honest, strong leadership. Keir spent a lot of time in our region. By my counting, this is his 4th visit since November, when he joined me and Scott Dickinson, the Labour leader of Northumberland, to meet with the victims of Storm Arwen in their time of need, which is something that the Tory Prime Minister completely failed to do. Keir listened intently as they told their stories, and he shared a vision of something better. He actually could have had a 5th visit to see Newcastle beat Arsenal, but unfortunately he was unavailable. For all of this, I want to thank Keir. Under Keir Starmer's leadership, our party is committed to reversing the impact of this hopeless Tory government, to making big decisions that bring relief for hard-up families, to alleviating poverty, keeping us safe, helping us grow and giving the kids growing up here something to believe in and opportunity. So I will repeat that call for a general election. We need to win back Blyth and Bishop Auckland and Sedgefield and North West Durham and the rest. The people of this region have had enough of these rotten Tories, and we need a Labour government. And so, I could not be prouder to have the honour to introduce the man that will lead us into that next general election, someone that will bring integrity and compassion back to number 10 Downing Street, our next Labour Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, and it's fantastic to be here this sunny morning. And Kim is absolutely right. The 5th visit I should have made up to the North East was in May, when Arsenal were playing Newcastle, and we had tickets for that match away. And if you remember, it got moved to the Monday, which meant I couldn't come to the game, which was a blessing in disguise because we got absolutely battered. It was the end of our dreams for the season. So, Kim, thanks for reminding everybody about what happened to Arsenal just towards the end of last season. But it is absolutely fantastic to see you all here this morning. Thank you so much for coming. 3 days ago, as you may have seen, my focus was on the immediate past, on the importance of leading with truth and integrity, on the difficult times our country faced in lockdown, and on the fact that those who make the rules shouldn't break the rules. Now, I set out my position on that question and the difference between me and the Conservative Party, now desperately trying to launder its integrity, even as it stood by an unfit Prime Minister to the bitter end. Today, I want to put my focus where it ought to be, where it will be every day between now and the next general election, on the future, on the sort of nation that Britain can be, and the sort of nation Labour wants it to be. Because at the moment, Britain is stuck with a tanking economy, stuck at home, unable to get a passport or a flight, stuck on the phone trying to book a GP appointment. Our taxes are going up. Food and energy bills are out of control. And many of the public services that we rely on have simply stopped working. Britain deserves better than this. We need a fresh start. And I know you'd expect me to say this, but we're not going to get that from a Conservative Party infected with the chaos virus caught from Boris Johnson. Only Labour can reboot our economy and end the cost of living crisis. Only Labour can revitalise our public services and re-energise our communities. Only Labour can unite the country and clean up politics. These 3 tasks will define my government, because until we address them, we leave ourselves vulnerable to the shocks and crises we've endured this past long decade. Yet the way I see it, the challenges we face, climate change, technology, an ageing population, are an opportunity to re-energise Britain. Some nation is going to lead the world in new nuclear power. Why not this one? Some nation will create the first generation of quantum computers. Why not us? Some nation will design medicines personally to match our unique DNA. Why not Britain? This determination to move Britain forward is what drives me. Britain should be a confident and prosperous nation. But at the moment, it's full of people worried about the next bill coming through the letterbox. Take Zoe from Sunderland, just down the road. Like many people, Zoe's gas and electricity bills have doubled. She says, I'm struggling to get by. I haven't managed a full shop for food in over a month. The cost of living is scaring me, and the future looks terrifying. Now, I've been up and down the country a lot recently. It's one of the good things about this job. And let me tell you, I've heard a version of Zoe's words from almost everyone I've met. Her words reflect the reality facing millions of working people in Britain right now. People like my family. I didn't come from a privileged background. My start in life was completely ordinary. Dad was a toolmaker. Mum was a nurse. Our house was a pebbled dash semi, and we had a Ford Cortina. Now, this was the 1970s. But I owe everything, all my values, to my upbringing, my work ethic and dedication to public service. But the real gift my parents gave me was the opportunity to get on. And that's why I came into politics. I've been lucky enough to take a journey through my life, from a working class family to head of the Crown Prosecution Service. So when I say I don't want anyone in this country held back by their circumstances, you know, it's not just words. It's why, for me, the state of our economy is personal. Because when people like Zoe are so scared about the future, when our economy is so racked by low growth and insecurity, then working people get stuck. And that means Britain gets stuck. The most important goal of my Labour government will be to grow the economy. And we will not accept growth that doesn't improve people's lives. An economy can grow and leave some of its people behind. But a nation cannot grow in that way. Not long ago, I was in Burnley. And I was left in no doubt by the people I met there. They had great ambitions for themselves and for their town. But they don't have a government that shares that ambition. Boosterism and wishful thinking are not the same as ambition. And if you don't have a plan to make your hopes real, all you're selling is an illusion. Now, the other thing my background gives me is impatience. If you're born without privilege, you don't have time for messing around. You don't walk around problems without fixing them, or surrender to the instincts of organisations that look to preserve themselves rather than modernise. So, believe it or not, I'm not that interested in the political game, the daily saga of who's up and who's down in Westminster. No, not even this week or last. I'm impatient to get things done. I can see what's wrong with Britain, and I want to fix it. It's what I've done with our own party. When I took this job on in April 2020, I knew we had a big task before us. We had to change our party and prepare for power all in one go. Not change for change's sake, but change with a purpose. To remake a Labour Party that understands its purpose is service, not self-indulgence. Country first, party second. That's why we had to root out the anti-Semitism which had infected our party. That's why we had to show our support for NATO is non-negotiable. Show that we want business to thrive and to prosper, and shed policies that won't work. The Labour Party was stuck in opposition, stuck licking its wounds after 4 painful defeats. Of course, we still have more to do. But now Labour is moving forward again. And this is what I will do for Britain. And I will do it with a plan to tackle the 3 biggest issues that we face. Rebooting our economy and ending the cost of living crisis. Revitalising our public services and re-energising our communities. And uniting the country and cleaning up politics. Let me start with the economy. I've explained why this is personal, how my mission in politics cannot be achieved unless we get our economy growing again. So let me tell you now, Labour will fight the next election on economic growth. The first line of the first page of our offer will be about wealth creation. We will show how a Labour economy based on partnership and contribution can make Britain richer. And we won't retreat to a comfort zone on public services and hope the focus of the country shifts. Now, many of our plans are already in place. Our strategy to buy, make and sell more in Britain. Our 5-point plan to reform the Northern Ireland Protocol and make Brexit work. Our climate investment pledge that invests £28 billion a year to help us win the race for the next generation of jobs. Gordon Brown is looking at new forms of economic devolution for us, so that every city, every town, every place has the chance they deserve to contribute to our economy. David Blunkett is leading a skills commission made up of entrepreneurs, business leaders and policy experts. Whilst Lord Jim O'Neill is looking at how we can make Britain the best country in the world to start a new business. And never forget, it was Labour who pushed so hard for a windfall tax on energy companies to help those struggling with their bills. In the weeks ahead, I'll say more about how an economy based on partnership and contribution works, and how it can grow us out of the cost of living crisis. But let me say here why I think only Labour can deliver for Britain. Whoever emerges from the chaotic circus now being played out in Westminster. Because the task, as I see it, is to create an economy that is strong, secure and inclusive. One that is resilient to the shocks of an uncertain world, which doesn't just create jobs, but good, well-paid, secure jobs, and growth that doesn't harm society or people's chances, or trash the public finances. I can't believe what we're hearing from the candidates to be the next Tory leader. The Tory leadership race hasn't even officially begun yet, but the arms race of fantasy economics is well underway. Over the weekend, the contenders have made more than £200 billion worth of unfunding spending commitments. 200 billion. Let that sink in. That's more than the annual budget of the NHS, splurged onto the pages of the Sunday papers, without a word on how it'll be paid for. And on taxes, the vast majority of them served in Boris Johnson's government. They went out every day for months and years to defend his behaviour. They backed every one of his 15 tax rises. They're behaving as if they'd just arrived from the moon. They actually nodded along and trooped through the lobbies, voting to support it. Now it turns out they were opposed to them all along. The hypocrisy is nauseating. And when I say decency and honesty matter, that includes being honest about how we fund every single thing we promise. It's why when I say we have a plan for investing in education, I also say it'll be funded by closing the VAT loophole for private schools. Or when I say we need to sort out mental health treatment in this country, I also tell you that we'll do it by closing tax loopholes used by private equity. Politics means tough decisions. It means being frank with the public. It doesn't mean tossing out tens of billions of unfunded spending commitments just to play to the gallery of Tory MPs and members. But it also means being frank with your own party. I don't believe you can achieve a strong economy with just a tired formula of deregulation and tax cuts. But nor do I believe you can achieve it if all you have is redistribution and public sector investment. Most of all, I don't think you can achieve it with the false choice running through the government's levelling up agenda of north versus south, city versus town. That's not partnership. We need every community to make a contribution to growing national prosperity. We can't have people like Zoe stuck. That is what the Conservative Party doesn't understand about the modern economy. They don't believe in partnership. They don't believe you need state and market, business and worker, the everyday economy and the technological frontier, all working together for a strong, secure and inclusive economy. But we can't do that without first-rate public services. And that's the second big challenge where only Labour is the answer. Every Labour government inherits the same task from the Tories: to revitalise neglected public services. It will fall to us to do the same again. And we will. We will. This is not just a social justice issue, though it is that. It speaks directly to the type of economy we want to build. We saw that in the pandemic. Close public services like childcare, schools, GP surgeries, and look at the impact on productivity. When we pushed forward with our plans to make sure everyone can access mental health treatment within 1 month, when we recruit 8,500 mental health professionals, fully funded by closing a tax loophole on private equity, this is an investment in the economic strength of the country as well as the health and well-being of our communities. Or, to take another example, hundreds of thousands of people over 50 have left the labour market since the pandemic. 1 million more people are out of work on benefits, the biggest drop in the employment rate of the major G7 economies. And as Jonathan Ashworth is setting out today, we will reform employment support to help people get back into work. But reforming public services can't just be a question of investment. We also need to think imaginatively about how technology is expanding the range of what's it possible to do, about how we can put people in control of more personalised and responsive services. This means we have to think differently about the purpose of each of our public services. In health, it means finally making good on the promise to prevent illness, not just cure it when it happens. In education, it means not just imparting knowledge, but developing the creativity, the resilience, the curiosity, the problem-solving abilities of every young person. In social care, it means giving people a better quality of life and paying for it in a way that is genuinely fair. And in tackling crime, it means developing neighbourhood crime hubs that can prevent crime and build community cohesion rather than reacting when things go wrong. Now, each of these would mean big strategic changes to the way our public services work and allow more people to fulfil their ambitions free from illness or insecurity. And that leads me to the third defining task of my government: re-energising communities, uniting the country, and cleaning up our politics. A Labour government will bring people back together. I'm tired of our divisive politics. We have a government with no understanding of how to grow the economy or reform our public services. So it creates division to set us against one another and distract from its failures. Some people say to me, Keir, this is politics now. Division is how you win. Let me be clear. I want no part of that. If that is what politics has become, then we will change politics. We've already set out our plans to clean up Westminster. Under Labour, there won't be any MPs lobbying for their friends. But a Labour Britain will be one where we celebrate who we are. One that embraces both our differences and what we have in common. There will always be issues that divide us, points of disagreement. There's nothing wrong with that. That's democracy. But even in a robust democracy, it's vital we settle those disputes in a civilised way, that we play by the rules. That's the reason I took the action I did when faced with those allegations in Durham. I wanted to show that politicians will risk their careers on matters of principle, that we are not, as so many people in this country believe, only in it for ourselves, and that I'm committed to the values which earn Britain respect all around the world. Fair play, respect for difference, the rule of law. So Labour will end the era of divisive politics and clean up Westminster. And we will show we are the self-confident, forward-looking, optimistic, united kingdom I know that we can be. Now, I don't think it's hard to describe what people want from politics. The mission I've set out today certainly isn't complicated. I don't want anyone in this country to be held back by their circumstances. And I want to get Britain moving again, so we can once more face the future with confidence. I've talked today about why that mission is personal to me. And I've talked previously about the moment I knew I needed to leave law and go into politics, about the daily injustices that I saw as Director of Public Prosecutions. Important examples are etched on my mind. For example, when we failed to deliver justice for Jane, the daughter of John and Penny Clough. Over the last few weeks, I've thought about that a lot. Thought about the nature of rules and how you change them. But what I thought back then is what I still think now. There is no substitute for politics when it comes to tackling injustice and changing this country. And change is what my Labour Party will offer at the next general election. We will give Britain the fresh start it needs. We will reboot our economy, re-energise our communities, revitalise our public services, unite the country, clean up politics and end the cost of living crisis. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're going to take some questions from the press. And I've got a list that I hope is accurate that I'm working to here. I think we're going to start with Alex from the BBC. Alex.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sir Keir. Alex Forsyth, BBC News. You've given a speech today setting out what you say is your vision for a confident and prosperous nation. But can I ask, where is the new policy? You've been Labour leader now for more than 2 years. You've called for a general election. Isn't it time then, rather than just tell the country what a Labour government might look like, you tell the country what you would do to get there?
Well, Alex, I've just set out in that speech some of the policies already in place. When it comes to economic growth, we've been saying repeatedly that this is the single most important issue. We've had 12 years of stagnation, 12 years of low growth. If the economy, just let this sink in, if the economy in the last 12 years had grown at the same rate as the last Labour government, we would have billions to spend on public services without raising a single tax. So we've said that, we've set out our skills agenda, we've set out our agenda for economic devolution, we've set out a huge pledge on investment, £28 billion for the next generation of jobs. So a lot of those policies are already in place. Obviously, we'll develop on that, but let me be absolutely clear to anybody watching this. I think the change that we need at the moment is much more fundamental than a change of the person at the top of the Tory party. Britain needs a fresh start, and that can only happen with the change of government. We are ready for that, so bring it on. Thank you, Alex. Chris. Have we got a microphone? I've got Chris from ITV. No? Yes, by all means. Why not?
Liz Bates from Sky News. So the first question is, first of all, you've taken quite a principled and consistent stance on the issue of fixed penalty notices. You said if you got one, you would stand down. You said the Prime Minister should stand down when he got one. Should Rishi Sunak, on that basis, be barred from the Conservative leadership race? The second question is, and this is a criticism... I
didn't know we were doing twos, but we are. You take an ITV
it's
slot,
a short
and
one.
now you take... Maybe you can do one for them as well.
It's a really short one. It's on behalf of ITV.
That's right.
Second question, and this is a criticism that's been levelled at you from voters, but also members of your shadow cabinet. Are you too boring to be the next Prime Minister?
Well, let me take that one. The only thing that's boring is opposition. That's what's boring. I want to get us out of opposition. So thank you for that one on behalf of ITV. On the question of the fixed penalty notice, I took the approach I did as a matter of principle because I think it's very important to make the case that not all politicians are the same. I think there's nothing that feeds disaffection in politics and a belief that politics can't make a difference from this sense that politicians don't follow the rules, they've got no integrity, they don't mean what they say. And I think that drags down all of our politics. So I didn't make that because I wanted to make the case that I've never made a mistake in my life. I have made mistakes, I'll make further mistakes, etc. But what's important to me is integrity and honesty in politics. And I wanted to be clear that all politicians are not the same. And therefore, I put everything on that decision. I've been lucky with my career. I've worked as a lawyer. I've worked in Northern Ireland on part of the peace process. I was the Director of Public Prosecutions. I'm now leader of the Labour Party. I put all of that on the line for that principle. That's how important it is to me that people have the belief that politics can be a force for good and that we can do amazing things if politicians mean what they say and say what they mean. That's also why I called for the Prime Minister to step down when he was fine and called for Rishi Sunak to step down when he was fine, because this principle is bigger than any of the rest of us. If people don't believe in politics as a force for good, we lose something very, very important to this country. And look what we've done when we have had governments that believe what they say and say what they believe. We had the NHS created by a Labour government. We had the Equal Pay Act passed by a Labour government. And we had people brought together in Northern Ireland under the Good Friday Agreement, an incredible achievement. And those principles, that framework is very, very important to me, which is why I put everything on the line in relation to the allegations in Durham. Thank you, Liz. Let's see if we can... I've got Tom from PA. Have we got Tom? Tom, sorry, you're right back there. You probably need a mic, because I may not hear you quite as well as I might otherwise.
Hi. By removing Boris Johnson, have the Tories made your job winning the next general election more difficult or easier?
Look, I'm glad to see the back of him. I don't think that'll come as any surprise. But we've had 12 years of stagnation, 12 years of low growth, 12 years of stagnant wages, and we've got prices and inflation through the roof. So this is why I say it's not about changing one person at the top of the Tory party. We need much more fundamental change than that. And if any of the candidates think that they'd have a better chance against us, bring it on. Put your money where your mouth is. Call a general election so we can put our positive case to the country, put our plan to the country that I've set out today, and give Britain the fresh start that it deserves. Thank you. Jeremy from the Mirror.
Hello there.
Jeremy, sorry, I can see you now.
Can I just ask very simply, would Labour cut taxes at the next election? Obviously, you've mentioned that all the candidates...
Sorry, say that again?
Forgive me. You've mentioned that all the candidates pretty much in the Tory party leadership race have talked about unfunded tax cuts. Would you cut taxes at the next election?
We won't be making any unfunded commitments. Everything we say will be funded, and that will be set out. And I've already explained in the speech I've just given the examples where we have done that. So under a Labour government, we know that every penny of taxpayers' money has to be looked after and spent wisely. So we will fund that. Can I just say this in relation to the Tory candidates? Because we have had this circus for the last few days. £200 billion worth of uncosted spending commitments. Every single Tory candidate making wild spending commitments should tell us precisely where they're getting that money from. Is it cuts? If so, what are they cutting? Where's it coming from? If it's borrowing, well, tell us how much they're borrowing, Or is it the magic money tree that they've suddenly discovered, having arrived back down here from the moon, where they've apparently been for the last 12 years? So that's the challenge we put out to them. We will proceed with our plan to explain exactly where we get the funding for every commitment that we make. Thank you, Jeremy. I've got Rob Parsons somewhere here, I hope. Nope. And Liz Bates. Oh, Liz, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got you on the list. In which case, thank you very much, everyone. Fantastic to see you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Nice to see you. Thank you.